It doesn't seem that bad, but look at the data. Look at the statistics. Look at the diseases that we have today we didn't even have 20, 30, 40 years ago. So, of course, we're seeing the effect. But it's, again, being waylaid by special interests who are telling you, oh, no, they'd rather spend hundreds of millions of dollars dissuading you from their technology being dangerous than they would correcting it. I mean, there's devices you can put on phones that are actually legitimate, that have been studied. And why doesn't a cell company say, hey, we'll be the first cell company in the world that's going to put technology in that reduces it? The only one that attempted to do it half-heartedly was Samsung. And they didn't even advertise it, because what it does is bring up to the public, international public, wait, we have a dangerous technology. How about if you created that? And what technologies are there? I mean, look what happened to poor Tesla. Tesla was literally telling us that they could give us free energy, that the waves that he was speaking about are the waves that Gabriel spoke about, that universal frequency that was proven by a colleague and a friend of mine at University of California, Los Angeles, Dr. Hunt, that governs everything on the planet. And so they knew that. So you could probably use natural frequencies without any side effect. They may even help you.
So the latest research I've seen, if you're using a cell phone for more than 20 minutes a day, there seems to be an increased effect on brain and heart cancers. So it's that little bit. And obviously people are using a whole lot more than that. So it is really, really important to pay attention. Now, we don't have Wi-Fi in our home. I don't have Wi-Fi in my office. And we can also model, is what I'm saying. No Wi-Fi. We exist. It happens. And things go well. And on different cell phones that happen, we put the TACAN disk and a few other different things. And really, you're not weakened. So you can do those things. The bigger picture, though, is, again, getting clear. Even though we can be clever, we can help a few people do it, but we've got to stop it at a major level of the issue. That's really the task that we have, because knowledge is power, and we have to we have that moral responsibility, really, to use it to create a better world and protect our children and grandchildren, so that really the evolution of humanity can continue, because that's really what's at stake here. This is not an accident without, let's say, as I mentioned, the spiritual part. When your brain is being altered by these forces like 5G, it's very hard to kind of reach higher spiritual levels. So we're talking evolution, not just physiological evolution, but mental and spiritual evolution. So it's actually, again, a big deal, and as little as 20 minutes. So we model it. We don't have Wi-Fi, literally in my office or in our home, and we do quite well. You can actually go back to landlines. You've heard of those, right? There isn't a problem using a landline. So we can do those things, and we begin to model for people what's possible. Oh my God, you don't have Wi-Fi? My goodness, you're using a landline? Yeah, that's right. And then you start explaining it, but it's an example that starts to turn the tide.
And the research that's looked at people using cell phones for over 10 years have found that it is the heavy long-term users that have, depending on the studies, 2 to 3 times the risk for brain cancer. Now, what was heavy use in these studies was 20 to 30 minutes a day. So that's because when you're going, yes, because at the time, remember, if you're looking at people for a long time, way back, we didn't use cell phones like we use them now. But the other thing is, and Dr. Hardell's research shows this, but for the children, the numbers could be up to 5 times increase. They're more vulnerable. So And that's only looking at studies that, didn't go past 20 years. So, I mean, kids are using cell phones all the time. When I say, our recommendation used to be, well, text rather than talk on the phone. But kids are texting thousands of texts a day, and they're sending pictures and videos and all of these things. All of those things are going through our bodies. All of that information, every time you send a picture, or these TikTok, this new thing TikTok that I just don't even, I can't keep up with all these things, but that's videos that are being made, moving through space, going through people, and through birds, and through our trees to reach the cell tower, affecting every living being. So I just think we have to use common sense. Common sense will bring us back. We're losing our common sense because what I hear from industry is we have to balance the needs, like in schools, since this is a school panel, the needs of the educational system with your concerns. But how, right? I mean, how can we balance anything on our children's healthy future? What sense does this even make? If there is a chicken sandwich in the refrigerator, whatever, something generally, let's think of something with meat that someone has in their refrigerator, and it's been 2 or 3 days, you don't feed it to the kids. You just don't. That's what the government says not to do. It's going bad. It's bringing all these things. You can tell that to policymakers. I do that all the time. I say, would you feed that to your kids if it's been several days? Now, the husband might eat it. That's often what happens in families. But like, it's like, oh, or you put it in soup or something, but you don't feed it to the kids. You don't risk your kids. I mean, you're being told by scientists, by people who are doing this research, we have a problem. There's no balancing. The only thing you want to balance is our health. How can technology be more important than that? If they can't get a good education, if their brains are going to be damaged, what good is the education? I mean, I don't understand the logic that's often used, and I think we just have to bring it down to common sense and use that.
What we're saying is, call it common sense, but it's actually a moral sense as well.
Yes.
And there's a morality that we're talking about. And human life should not be endangered for commercial gain. What we're also saying.
Oh, no, not right now. Sorry.
As Theodora mentioned, heavy use, 10 years, 2 to 3 times cancer. If you're within 1,000 feet of a cell tower, you're 2 to 3 times more likely to get a cancer. I'm not going to talk about that. I want to answer your question, Steve. What's the problem with the router in the bedroom? What's the problem with the cell phones on right next to your pillow? Let me tell you what it can be. If you're very sensitive to these things, the brain and its brain pattern is interrupted. In severe cases, you may be walking around in sleep brainwaves, sleeping with awake waves. It can get that extreme. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because you're not getting balanced sleep. So your circadian rhythm all of a sudden is all disrupted. And what happens when circadian rhythm is disrupted? The mitochondrial that gets rebuilt in the middle of the night is not getting rebuilt. So there becomes a vicious cycle of health simply because you have a router in the bedroom. And that's more the problems you have to be concerned about. How do you deal with the environment you're living in? Because it really does affect your body, and it can debilitate real fast with that kind of risk.
So you're saying we should reroute our priorities?